You are walking through a quiet, American suburb. Trimmed lawns, white fences, silent streets. And then you see it. Purple stains on the sidewalk. Dark splatters on parked cars. Birds exploding out of a tree like it committed a crime. Because in some cities, it did. This tree can drop over 500 pounds of fruit in a single year. A fruit so powerful it fueled empires, launched the most famous trade route in human history, and helped trigger one of the earliest speculative bubbles in America. A fruit so abundant that modern cities outlawed the tree itself. Not because it was dangerous, not because it was poisonous, but because it produced too much food. This is the story of the mulberry, and more specifically, the Everbearing Mulberry. The tree that proved abundance is only a problem when it cannot be sold. Welcome to Lost Nature Vault. If you think the modern food system makes sense, this story is going to make you uncomfortable. Let's start with a contradiction, so absurd it sounds fictional. Today, Americans willingly pay nearly $7 for a plastic box holding a handful of blackberries. Those berries are grown thousands of miles away, picked on reap, refrigerated, trekked across borders, and sold as a luxury. At the exact same time, city governments spend taxpayer money to cut down trees that drop berries superior in nutrition, resilience, and yield because they are messy. That word alone should trigger suspicion, because nature is always messy. Only artificial systems demand cleanliness. The mulberry does not fit inside a profit-controlled supply chain. That is its real crime. Now strip away the reputation and look at the numbers, because once you do, the fruits we currently worship as superfoods start to look weak. Let's talk iron. Iron deficiency is one of the most widespread nutrient deficiencies in the United States. We are told to eat spinach, but spinach contains oxalates that bind iron, reducing absorption. Blueberries, the darling of the antioxidant world, contain about 0.4 milligrams of iron per 100 grams. That is nutritionally insignificant. You could eat bowls of them and barely move the needle. Mulberries deliver between 1.8 and 2.6 milligrams per 100 grams. That is 5 to 6 times more iron. For a fruit to rival leafy greens and even some meats in mineral density is not normal. It is a biological outlier. This is not garnish fruit. Teas is blood-building food, now resveratrol. The compound everyone pretends red wine is about. In grapes, resveratrol lives almost exclusively in the skin. In mulberries, it saturates the entire fruit. Studies show concentrations exceeding 50 micrograms per gram. That is roughly 5 times higher than grapes. To match the resveratrol content of a handful of mulberries, you would need to drink liters of wine. At that point, whatever benefit you think you are getting has been destroyed by alcohol. Mulberries deliver it without the damage. Then there is protein. Fresh mulberries are about 1.5% protein by weight. That already puts them ahead of most fruits. Dry them, and that number jumps to roughly 12%. That is not a snack. That is survival food. That is trail rations. That is famine-resistant nutrition. And vitamin C, about 36 milligrams per serving. Blueberries sit under 10. The comparison is not even close. So if this tree is this productive, this nutritious, and this resilient, why is it not planted everywhere? Because in the 1830s, America did not just grow mulberries. America lost its mind over them. Silk was the oil of the ancient world. For centuries, China controlled its production. The Silk Road existed because of one insect and one tree. The silkworm eats exactly one thing: mulberry leaves. When American farmers realized this, a fantasy took hold. Plant the trees, raise the worms, control silk, undercut China, become rich. The variety they chased was Morus multicollis, a fast-growing white mulberry strain. Speculation exploded. In 1834, a sapling cost $4. By 1837, individual trees sold for the modern equivalent of hundreds of dollars. Farmers mortgaged their land to buy sticks. Nurseries stopped producing food crops entirely to propagate mulberries. This was not agriculture. This was a bubble. And like all bubbles, it popped. A harsh winter killed millions of trees. Worse, there was no infrastructure to process silk at scale. Demand collapsed overnight. The price went to zero. Angry investors burned orchards. Others abandoned them. But the trees did not disappear. They cross-pollinated with native red mulberries. They spread, and because the tree had been mentally categorized as a failed investment, not a food source, no one bothered to reclaim it. When profit vanished, so did interest. That mistake shaped the American landscape. Then came the suburbs. After World War II, the yard stopped being productive and started being decorative. Lawns replaced gardens. Mulberries did not cooperate. They dropped fruit for weeks. The juice stained concrete. Birds ate the berries and redecorated everything below. Landscape planners labeled the mulberry a trash tree. Cities began banning them. Tucson outlawed new mulberries in 1984. Las Vegas followed. El Paso followed it. Nurseries responded by selling fruitless mulberries, male clones. No berries. Problem solved, except it wasn't. Male trees produce pollen. Massive amounts of it. The result was an allergy explosion. Asthma rates climbed. What solved the mess created a public health issue. And yet, hidden inside this mess was a solution no one wanted to see. In 1947, a man named Peter Glazer was walking the floodplains of the Wabash River in Illinois. He was searching for superior genetics. Most mulberries fruit for 2 chaotic weeks and stop. Glazer found a tree that ignored that rule. It was a natural hybrid. Red mulberry flavor, white mulberry vigor. And it did not stop producing. June to September. Continuous fruit. It was named the Illinois Everbearing and released in 1958. This tree fixed everything people complained about. Flavor, supply, reliability. One tree could feed a family fresh berries every morning for 3 months. It transformed the mulberry from nuisance to staple. The problem was never the tree. It was the system trying to control it. So how do you reclaim it? First, safety. Mulberries have almost no dangerous lookalikes. The only plant people confuse them with is pokeberry. Pokeberry is a weed, not a tree. Pink stems, toxic. If it is a tree with mitten-shaped leaves, you are safe. Second, do not forage near roadsides or utility corridors. Those areas are sprayed heavily. Third, sourcing matters. Do not buy seeds online. The Illinois Everbearing does not grow true from seed. You need a grafted or cloned tree. Reputable nurseries only. If you plant seeds, you risk growing a pollen-producing white mulberry with mediocre fruit. Finally, check your local codes. Some cities still ban mulberries by name, regardless of sex or pollen. Inspectors do not care about biology. They care about lists. Once cleared, this tree is nearly indestructible. Zones, 4 through 8. Full sun. 15 to 20 feet of space. Do not plant it near pavement unless you enjoy purple stains. It is drought, tolerant, pest-resistant, and long-lived. We are told luxury is expensive. That scarcity equals value. But the real luxury is what cannot be sold. A fruit too fragile to ship, too abundant to meter, too generous to profit from. The mulberry was not banned because it failed. It was banned because it succeeded. This is what Lost Nature Vault exists to uncover. The plant civilization tried to erase not because they were useless, but because they made the system nervous. If this changed how you see food, subscribe. The garden remembers what we forgot.